Welcome to my first batch of beer. Got a brewer's best kit. I got a home brewing kit from the local home brewer's store, so we're going to see how it goes. We're going to document my steps. I've got a list right here. I've got all the ingredients. I've watched a ton of YouTube videos and I finally said I'm going to try it. So today's the day. It's September. Let's see how it goes. First thing I have here is 2.5 gallons of water. That's at least what Brewer's Best says. I know other people say to put in 5 gallons, but I don't know any different, so we're going to try 2.5 gallons. My water here is terrible. The municipal water is not good, so I went out and got 2.5 gallons each of Ice Mountain water and put it in there. So there's 2.5 gallons in here. Right now it's at 160 degrees, which they say is the good temperature for steeping. So I'm doing the Irish Stout Kit today. I got the kit and it had everything in it. So we have barley in here, and what else do we have? It says 12 ounces of caramel, 4 ounces of roasted barley, and 4 ounces of black patent. So all you other brewers probably know what that means, but I really don't. So other than that, we're just going to steep this, and it says for 20 minutes. And as it starts to steep, you can already see it kind of leaching out. Cool. This is going to be an Irish Stout. I'm excited. So do this for 20 minutes. I'm going to leave it be because that's what it says to in the instructions, and we'll see you in 20 minutes. So the 20 minutes is up, and I had to fiddle with the temperature on the stove top a little bit to keep it in that sweet spot of 150 to 165 degrees, but we maintained it. I got a little bit down to that 150 range, but then I just bumped up the temperature and we were fine. A little history on the stouts. I was just reading about it. I've always liked stouts, but I never knew the history. Around the 1720s, porters became a fashionable beer in London. It was a darker beer, it was a richer beer, and the reason it was called a porter was because that was the occupation of the people that it was very favorable with. So the term stout came around actually before that, and it was used to describe a very strong beer, a good stout, strong beer. So when porter came around, it was a darker beer because of roasted malts, and it had a more of a earthy quality to it, almost like a coffee. So what would happen is that the porters were a little bit weaker in gravity and alcohol, but what would happen is that the brewers in London would start messing with the strengths, and they'd tinker and they'd experiment, and so the stronger beers, the beers with the higher gravity, became stouts. And that's how we know it today. So a porter and a stout are very similar, but a stout would be the more coffee-like of the two, the very strong, the very almost bitter, and the porters are a little lighter, a little less gravity. So a lot of people know about Guinness. If you try Guinness, you know it's a good starter, but really once you get into those craft stouts, there's a whole other world that you got to describe. And the best one for my buck is either the New Holland, the Poet, or Founder's Breakfast Stout, which comes out every September. So try those out, and right now what we're going to do is we're going to take the barley out and we're going to put it into a strainer, and I've been told not to press it out because that'll be too strong of a liquid that goes back in. So we're just going to let it kind of go back into it very gently, and then do that for about 5 minutes, and I'll be right back with you. So it's been about 5 minutes. I put the strainer over that, and as you see, there's no more liquid coming out, so we're just going to throw this out. However, they have said that if you are wanting to do it, that there's a good baking application for these, but today I don't have the time, but maybe that'll be another episode. So the instructions say next to bring the wort to a gentle rolling boil, which is what we're going to do. Add all of the included LME, DME, and maltodextrin to the boiling wort. No idea, except up here on the ingredients it says that that dark LME is what we put into the sink to get a little bit smoother running. And then it says 2 pounds of this. So this is dry malt extract. Same exact bags, but 2 pounds of this. And then right here is the maltodextrin. So we're going to add that, and it says continuously stir to extract into the wort as it returns to a gentle rolling boil. So let's do it. To make the malt extract come out easier, I was told to put it into a sink filled with hot water. The now very fluid pure malt extract, and I've been watching all the YouTube videos and wondering how it tastes. It's a very sweet, I don't know how to, it's like a molasses almost. It's actually kind of good, so I'm looking forward to this going in the beer. But as you can see, I don't know if you can see it with the sunlight there, but yeah, it's almost got the consistency of molasses. Max, my dog, thinks he can eat this, and anything up here that I do, if I start cutting on the cutting board, it's not for you, Max. You can drink it after it's done, but not now. Anyway, we're going to put this in there. Yeah, it tastes very much like molasses. So, we're going to incorporate this into the pot. And a tip that I heard on all the YouTube videos that I watched is take a little bit of the hot liquid, the wort, since I'm a brewer now I can call it that, and take a little bit of that, pour it back into here, spoon it all out, and then put it right back in. So it's kind of, you know, like an orange juice concentrate as we did as kids. So let's get to that. So take a little bit of this hot liquid, right back in. Max still thinks he can drink this, but she can't. So we're going to put it right back in. We're going to spoon a little bit in, loosen it up, and it is extremely hot. Next comes the part that not every brewing video had, so I hope I'm doing it right. It says on the instructions though, just take the maltodextrin. We're going to snip off part of this here. Okay, and it says add it to it, so here we go. Okay, next we're going to put in the dry malt extract. I really hope I'm doing this right, but it says to. I'm sure. Alright, so we've got this in this cool little spoon that came with the kit. We're going to stir that around. And it looks like my pot is just big enough to fit all of this. So this is with 2.5 gallons of water. And then I'm supposed to bring this to a vigorous boil. And I'm going to watch it that it doesn't spill over. So next time, after I get the hang of this, I'll probably get a bigger pot. So we'll see you when this is all incorporated. First homebrew, first boil over. So my wort has boiled over, the Lions have successfully given up the lead, and all is good and well here in Michigan. So I moved the wort over to the other burner. It's a smaller burner because now we have a bunch of malt sticking to my stove on the big burner, so it's taking a little longer to heat up, but it's just beginning to peak and getting that rolling boil. So what we're going to do then is we're going to add the green bullet hops, an ounce of those. Once we're done with that, we're going to go an extra 55 minutes while those steep in there. And then after 55 minutes, we're going to put in the GR Northern Brewer hops. And then once those go in, we're going to do another 5 minutes with that. So let's get to that. I'm going to add in the hops, and then we'll do the 55-minute boil. Are the hops, except they're hop pellets. But when you smell them, they definitely do have that distinctive bitter flavor, that floral flavor. It's a little bit deceptive. The first time I drank an IPA, somebody's like, smell that honey, smell that flower, and I did. And then when you drink it, it makes you go, well, you know how an IPA is. So it sprains your taste buds a little. But we're going to put in an ounce of these, and then we're going to do the 55-minute boil. So let's go for that. That's nice. Once the 55-minute boil is done, we're going to add in the Northern Brewer hops, and we're going to go for another 5. Now the goal here is to get the beer below 74 degrees fairly quickly so that bacteria does not grow. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it into an ice bath and keep stirring. Now there is a copper cable that is coiled up that cold water directly runs through, and it can be submerged into the beer. But for a beginner, an ice bath should be just fine, which is what we're doing here. So this is my first time sanitizing, and I'm scared to death because I think that everything I'm touching is not somehow sanitized, even though I was in culinary for 10 years, and believe me, I took the serve safe. But they say that if you get just the littlest bit of bacteria in there, it'll start to grow, and then even though it won't harm you, it will ruin your first batch of beer. So we have taken all the proper precautions. I have a link below to a good video that I saw about sanitizing all of your homebrew equipment. I figured it's better for them to explain than for me to explain since this is my first time. But so far, we put a little ice water in here and we're down to 100 degrees. We have to get that below 74 degrees. And then once that's done, we're going to put it into the plastic carboy. To continue the fermentation process, we're going to add another 2.5 to 3 gallons to bring it up to that 5-gallon mark. And then that's when the fermentation is going to begin. We're going to add the yeast on top. I did look up a couple of homebrew forums to see if you needed to put the yeast on top or if you had to actually stir it in, because the directions that I have says stir it. However, I've seen a lot of YouTube videos where people just put it on top. So the consensus being, it doesn't really matter because the yeast is not hydrated. So once you put it on top, the yeast will start to hydrate, the yeast will fall, and then it'll start to do the process. So really it's not going to matter. I'm going to just sprinkle the yeast on top, close up the lid, and then we're going to see for another 2 weeks, I think. But as far as sanitation goes, everything that this has, the beer is now touching, is going to be sanitized in this bucket. I have right here Star San. And it said 1 ounce per 5 gallons. So the thermometer was sanitized, this spoon was sanitized, the paddle, and yeah, and then basically it's in the, I mixed it in the bucket that it's going to be fermenting in, so it kind of works as a dual purpose, as a holding container, and it's also sanitizing the bucket. In here is also somewhere, I have to fish it out, is the airlock that I'm going to put on top where the carbon dioxide is going to be able to come outside, and then yeah, basically that's the exit for the carbon dioxide, but we'll show you that when we start fermenting. So as far as this goes, everything is sanitized. I'll get to you when we get to put it in the water, and then we'll bring it down the temperature even cooler, and then we'll start the fermentation process. So that's it, the lid is on it, and the brew is down in my basement where it's going to be staying for the next 4 to 6 days. According to the instructions at least, it says over the next 24 hours I'm going to start to see bubbles come up into the airlock. That's the CO2 escaping from the wort. So after 4 to 6 days, the fermentation should be about complete, and then it says, according to the instructions, that afterwards the bubbles will be stopped for 48 hours. That is when the fermentation is done. From there, we're going to start to bottle it. Once we bottle it, another 2 weeks after that, and then the process should be done. It's going to naturally carbonate, and we're going to have a good Irish stout. Glad you watched this one. Couple of things, you know, it was the first shot, so things went about as planned. I had a boil over. I'm scared about my sanitation, but with practice, I think it'll be a really good hobby. So if you have any other questions on that, feel free to drop in a comment. I'll try and look up the answer. We'll all learn in this together. So thanks for watching this episode of Delishigan, and I'll see you in about 4 to 6 days when we'll start bottling.